Ahoy hoy gang, if this is your first time with us, welcome, and if you're joining us from a previous video, hey, we love to see it, and I hope you're doing well. It's Season 10! The last of the Comedy Central era and the last bit of Futurama we'd have for a full decade. And honestly, I would say this is the strongest season, pound for pound, that Futurama would ever have. There's a lot to love and little to hate, and we've got a lot on our plate. So there's 3 questions that must be asked, and I don't want to wait. What worked, what failed, what actor redemption arcs will be curtailed? How are you doing? How have you been? It's time to review Season 10. Leela wants the ship towed for being unsafe, and the professor doesn't want to lose his sweet Bessie. So he goes to the dump and works on saving his beloved ship. When he flies the ship out, he's challenged to a street race by a bunch of rebels, one of which having serious emotional abuse issues that may or may not be addressed this episode. As the junk falls off of the Planet Express ship, he turns it into a souped-up dragster and blows past the competition, even using dimensional drifting to blaze his way to victory and earning his keystone nickname, the Professor. Leela gets a cool super safe cube ship and they go on a dumb, normal, safe delivery, while the professor hangs with his new crew and learns about their complex lives and the hurt someone can feel from what wasn't said to them, rather than what was. Leela challenges the professor to a street race around the Mobius Strip, and they end up colliding into each other and going to a 2D world. They have to escape or they'll starve, and when they use the ship to dimensional drift again, Leela appreciates how the professor feels about the ship and just how effective it can really be. I mean, what do you need me to tell you? This is a wonderful Professor and the Ship episode, and it's really the only one we've had throughout the show. You put this in the last season as a celebration of the ship that's been around since the beginning, that's taken them on all these adventures. Bessie is effectively the Going Merry of the Futurama crew. You give the professor time to shine with the youths, and it's an absolutely amazing conclusion to their story ideas. I really truly love this episode and think it's one of the best of the show. It's got terrific writing, and while the 2D part feels jarring and a little bit of filler, the rest of the episode around it is just phenomenal. 2D Blacktop is a driftastic 9 out of 10. Even the last part where the girl gets the call from her dad and she gives this tearful thumbs up. I don't know why it works for me. It is the dumbest joke. I get it's a Too Fast, Too Furious like reference and whatever, but it's just so dumb in the best way. It's so honest. It's so just genuine, and I adore it. After Fry tries to go all out on the romance with Leela after work and they end up spectated by Scruffy while trying to enjoy dinner, the two start running around to try and find an escape, and Leela offers for them to go on the same retreat she went on with her ex-boyfriend and acclaimed musician from back in the Fox era, Sean. They go to the retreat, and sure enough, Sean and his wife are there, and Sean tries to hit on Leela like he did all those years ago, while Fry wallows with his robot hand sidekick. Leela quickly gets bored of Sean and his sax, and the two eventually make up. Aw, isn't that sweet? Even has a little narrative weight just packed in there for you, everybody. Look at that. Throughout this season, Fry and Leela are actually a bona fide couple. They are growing as a pair, and it's brilliant. And Sean is back from the Devil's Hands Are Idle Playthings, and he's actually given an identity. We've seen this referenced in the past, and here he finally is. And he's not even the only reference we get, because the other story of the episode is Amy, Bender, and Zoidberg delivering a package on a monkey planet where they run into Gunter from Mars University and discover that Fry and Leela are actually part of a human habitat at the Monkey Planet Zoo, led by Dr. Banjo. They paid to be there, they get a perfectly delightful vacation, and monkeys get to look in on them. It's complicated in a fun way, and I gotta be honest, it's such a good final Amy-focused episode. She gets time to really shine in the spotlight, and I mean, they never have to try and save Leela and Fry. They're really not in any danger, and they could leave at any time, but they still go to these extremes to try and save them for no reason, and it's just the best. I don't know. You can really tell Lauren Tom is going all in with Amy here, and it really feels like an incredible conclusion to her story in the series. Fry and Leela's Big Fling is a monkey see, monkey do, 9 out of 10. Remember Jur from the Problem with Poplars episode? Which, just putting this here, I do know and did not mention at the time that Problem with Poplars is also a play on the TOS episode The Trouble with Triples. Anyway, Jur's back, and he's a little scout trying to earn merit badges. So naturally, his father takes him to Earth to take it over and get his invasion badge. However, when he's got to take something out, he accidentally takes out Nixon's headless Agnew, and Nixon cuts all ties with Omicron Persei 8, which is not good. See, the professor needs the crew to go to Omicron Persei 8 to get a special agent that helps his arthritis. Omicronian Devil's Lettuce. I have never seen Hermes move so fast. The gang uses the buddy system, and Bender abandons Fry, who wanders off and ends up in Jur's shed, and it's literally just an E.T. parody where Bender has to come up with reasons Fry isn't around and tries to keep everyone tricked as he gets more and more racked with guilt until he's flying out to save Fry from the Omicronians. It's really just the story of Jur standing up to Lur and being his own person. He doesn't want to conquer or maim, and that's okay. He's coming into his own, and when he stands up to Lur, he actually starts to earn Lur's respect. Which, like, it may not seem like much, but that's kind of a perfect conclusion to the Omicronians. Lur is a loving father and husband who is lazy from time to time, but does genuinely care about his family and wants his kid to be okay. Jur has grown up from the almost consumed poplar all those years ago and is finding his place in the world. You get to see a callback to the earlier seasons, and that's what this whole season is. It is a remembrance of what got us to this point, and it absolutely shines. The Omicronians used to be just invaders, but through the show, they've become fully realized characters, and it's a great final note for them to go out on. T the Terrestrial is a piece of candy, 8 out of 10. The gang are delivering an evil super scientist trapped in carbonite to prison when Bender sees his folk music hero, Silicon Red, who refuses to teach Bender everything he knows or even give him his precious guitar. The absolute audacity to not give the stranger everything he wants. Bender proceeds to go and get a 3D copy of the guitar made and begins his folk music journey. Also at the prison, the scientist got out of the carbonite, and Fry keeps referencing how horrible he was and how he just kept stabbing him. And I love how Fry is just so bothered by it because, yeah, it's great. It's a great callback, and everyone is performing genuinely. Billy West has some of the best deliveries of this season, and it's incredible. But the rest of the story is about Bender wanting to be a folk singer and trying to live a folk life. He goes to work on a railway and meets a robot called Caboose. He has a Jezebel, and he's doing all these things to make his song more authentic, but as he comes up with more and more of the song, more and more of it begins to come to life. Because when Bender went to get a 3D copy of Silicon Red's guitar, they never unlinked him from the machine, so he's been 3D printing the elements of his song the entire time. Fake Bender gets railroaded, and the real Bender takes the show on the road with Caboose and Silicon Red. Bender has wanted to be a true and proper folk singer since season 1. Bend It in the Wind was great, absolutely, but it wasn't really what Bender wanted. I'll consider Beck a lot of things. Folk artist is not one of them. It wasn't the folk songs that Bender wanted to write. This is the realization of Bender's greatest dream, and it's brilliant. Bender has been a cornerstone of the show, and he'll have a few final episodes, but this one does a brilliant job of closing the bookend on his dreams of being a folk singer. He got what he always wanted and got to perform alongside his hero as they both sold out together. It's a perfect conclusion. 40% Lead Belly is a prime and printed 8 out of 10. After saving a bunch of miners on the sun, Bender is seen as a hero and the Planet Express crew become Earth's greatest firefighters. They keep saving the day, but start to get suspicious when they realize every place they go to, Bender had been previously and start to think he might just be an arsonist. Turns out there was actually a sun criminal from the sun, Flamo, that tagged along inside Bender and has been burning things down in hopes of getting strong enough to take over the world and make it a better sun to beat out the aldermen. Bender has to keep Flamo hidden away and even goes to Antarctica as a means of keeping the flame away from the center of the Earth and stealing all of the Earth's power. Bender is selflessly being a hero without anyone around him to acknowledge it. He is just knowingly doing the right thing to try and help everyone, and that's fantastic. Flamo manages to sneak away on Fry when Fry goes to confront Bender, and he ends up burning Planet Express until Bender goes to stop him and he's arrested by the Alderman of the Sun. The Bender of the first season would have never worked this hard to stop Flamo. He wouldn't have done this in general. This is a result of his growth, of his journeys to find meaning. He understands what it means to do the right thing and willingly makes the choice with his free will to do it. It's brilliant, and I legitimately loved the episode. It is a testament to how they were able to add in these small elements season by season that makes each of the Planet Express crew members that much more realized. Look at where Bender is now. The jokes you laugh at in this Bender are because you have laughed at the Bender of the earlier seasons so many times. You have seen him grow and mature, and they do this without there being any obvious through lines through seasons, because they were still using it for broadcast TV and for very early streaming. They had to juggle both ideas. The Inhuman Torch is a clean burning 9 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Best episode, no question. Forget the Yo Gabba Gabba episode. This is the one that stands above all others. This is the chosen one. It's our final anthology episode, and it's just Nixon and his third body of Spiro Agnew watching Saturday morning cartoons. The first one is a Scooby-Doo one that's completely fine and features George Takei, who is honestly the only reason to care about it. But I will say, with the Globetrotters and everything, it is fun. It is a loyal Scooby-Doo parody, and the Larry Bird bit is really kind of great. It's fun, very tongue-in-cheek, and feels earned after all this time. Easily one of the best anthology starts yet. The second one is a Smurfs parody that basically keeps cutting over to commercials that show off different ads and snacks that kids can go out and buy. It's fun, it's got some charm to it. I think the commercials were what they really wanted to do, and I think if you cut into more commercials or even have it just be a chain of commercials, like a proper ad break between the first and third stories, it would have worked better, but it's still good. That's all fine and good. But throughout the episode, Nixon has to respond to everyone's demands and even issues apologies here and there, and it all comes to a head with the third story, which is an overly violent G.I. Joe parody that might be the funniest thing I've ever seen Futurama do. Nixon is live redubbing the episode and editing anything where it might seem too violent to try and dial it down, and it is absolutely glorious. I mean, Billy West Nixon is perfect for this, and you can kind of tell he was improvising some of it, and it's just that natural delivery that makes the whole thing so great. You could tell they were having just a ton of fun and just saying whatever came to mind. You're like, oh, he's fine. I landed it next to this naturally occurring explosion. I'm okay. Like, beautiful. 10 out of 10. Easily the best anthology episode, bar none, and one of the best episodes of the show, and my absolute favorite. Saturday Morning Fun Pit is a sugar-loaded 10 out of 10. I hate Calculon. I've hated him for a long time because of his character and because of what he represents. He's just this loud, over-the-top, hammy actor, best seen in daytime TV, and he's just the worst, shoehorned into so many stories, and I was so elated that the show took him out. They did me an absolute solid back in Baghead. But you know what? This episode is brilliant. Fry and Bender hate all my circuits now, so they go down to the Robot Devil and demand that he give them back Calculon's soul. The Robot Devil absolutely can't stand Calculon, so he practically just gives him back without a fight, so he's finally free of him. And I gotta say, huge props to Dan Castellaneta making one of the last appearances of Robot Devil one of his absolute best. When he gives Calculon over, doesn't even care. He's like, yeah, sure, the number I was thinking of was W. Just leave. It's just, but that's okay. Calculon is back and he's ready to reclaim his stage. He goes to audition and gets the role of Calculon, who is basically just a complete and utter hack. Leela calls Calculon out and actually tries to push him to be open and real and show who he actually is, to leave himself raw. But he keeps refusing, always going for this bigger and bigger identity. He was meant to steal the show! And so when it's time to go on, he hams it up like he usually does, and they go for a second take. Something that's never happened to him before. His ego had been getting in the way of him actually appreciating the craft of being an actor, and when he'd lost everything else, he finally lets go, and he lets himself act from the heart. He gives a true and genuine performance that captivates the audience and proceeds to get crushed and taken out again to go harass the Robot Devil some more. But the key element is that he was able to grow and become a better robot, and more importantly, a better actor. This is a wonderful conclusion to Calculon's character and everything he represented, while allowing Maurice LaMarche to give a career-best performance as he makes the gold-plated moron actually feel genuine. He's been an integral part of the show for so long, and to have a celebration of one of his most prominent characters only makes sense. Calculon 2.0 is a show-stealing 10 out of 10. The crew have to deliver to the Blips, who have a color-coded enemy in the Cruds, a mix of blood and crypt, and let that be your last battlefield from Star Trek TOS. Sure enough, they're delivering weapons, so Leela has Bender bend the barrels of the so-called weapons so that they can't be used, when it turns out they were actually a gift from the Cruds to help fight their uniting enemy, the giant spiders. Good intentions and all that. Bender's body gets chopped, and the crew have to go around and get his pieces back from all sorts of assorted callbacks. You gotta go and see the human horn dealer again. Get the arms from the Borax Kid, use them to swindle again. Get his legs back from Tiny Timbot and make him go back to hobbling. And when all he's missing is his glorious metal ass, they go into the no man's land of the Sargasso Sea and work with a lighthouse worker to try and find his missing cheeks in the wreckage. They find the delightful derriere, and when Fry hits it with some light, it illuminates the sea better than any other material in the known universe. Bender's ass could save countless lives if he's willing to part with his most iconic part of himself. However, when Bender is struggling to deal with the separation, his ass flies home to his rightful hips, and finally our folk-singing swindler is back in one piece. Bender is nothing without his ass, and his ass is nothing without him. It's dumb. It's so dumb. But it's so earnest and so wholesome, you just don't care. Bite my shiny metal ass has been added into the public lexicon, and it stands as his trademark catchphrase. Imagine Bart having an episode in The Simpsons where he confronts having a cow man. It'd be odd, but Futurama does it right. This episode just feels perfect. And sure enough, Bender gets to make peace with his ass and wraps the total ideas of Bender pretty succinctly. We'll still get one last Bender and Fry adventure, but as this stands, this is Bender as a character. And it's beautiful. Assy Come Home is a cosmic well diving, boy saving 9 out of 10. Leela gets stuck to a robo-bugalo at a redneck bar because she's developing squidification, where her mutant DNA is turning her entire body into tentacles. She goes to the sewers to live with her parents, and the professor gives Fry the ship to try and sell so they'd be able to afford Leela's surgery to turn her back to normal. He sells the ship for giant beans, because Fry is that guy. I gotta appreciate how much the professor cares about his crew, and he's even willing to sell his beloved ship to get Leela the help she needs. Well, Fry plants the giant beans and they grow into a beanstalk that Leela climbs up to a sky palace ran by Mom called Mom Santo. Get it? It's the GMO episode. Mom captures Leela and begins looking at her DNA. Fry and Bender are able to find Leela and they head up to the flying sky base to get her back. While they're climbing her tentacles Rapunzel style, we actually get a fun throwback and one of the last few guest stars we'd have, and the throwback is to the old 60s Batman, where they'd have Batman and Robin scaling a building, and ex-celebrity would pop out of a window to see how the Cape Crusader and Boy Wonder were doing. This time, though, it would actually be Adam West and Burt Ward played by themselves. If they weren't played by the dynamic duo, I think it would have really bothered me, but I really kinda love it. I don't know, it was just fun seeing them. Anyway, they get to Leela and get her home, but Mom comes down and offers to fix Leela since her squid DNA was able to perfect her giant bean. Mom is maniacal, absolutely, and wants total control, but she's not a complete and utter monster. Honestly, they kind of soften the image of Mom here and shows that she's also a scientist at the end of the day, even if she's concocting giant city-destroying beanstalks. Genetic altering on its own isn't a bad thing. It's just, when there's diabolical things you do with it. The episode is just, a very roundabout fairy tale parody. It never undercuts the seriousness of what Leela is going through, though, and it does start to have Leela make peace with herself, and Fry supports her no matter what she looks like. Throughout the season, Fry and Leela have been an incredibly strong couple, and it really kind of stands out compared to previous seasons. This shows Leela making peace with her mutant identity and realizing no matter what, she'll never be alone anymore. She has a family, and even more importantly, she has Fry. Leela in the Jeanstalk is a gigantism averting 8 out of 10. This is a toss-up for me, honestly. A ship is going around playing a repeating noise that makes planets crumble in on themselves, and it's coming towards Earth. Fry recognizes the sound from 1999, but can't place it, and since he and Nibbler were from 1999, they send Fry into the dreamscape to try and remember what the sound is from. Fry walks around his old neighborhood and still can't find the sound. They wake him up and we see time moves way slower in the dreamscape as 2 weeks have almost passed in the outside world. He gets thrown back in and instead of looking for the sound, decides he wants to spend the day with his family. This is where he realizes he only thought he hated his family because he thought he'd never see them again. That it would just be easier to just think they never liked him. When we see him with his family, his dad is gruff yet smiling. His brother Yancey gives him a noogie, but you can tell he cares and loves his little brother. And his mom is even making his favorite meal and lets him lick the beaters. He's got his little buddy Seymour by his side, and life is good for this one moment. Everyone goes into the dreamscape to get Fry to look, and by the end, he remembers the beeps and they're literally just from another Niblonian trying to find the car he took Nibbler to Earth on. He's been destroying planets to find a company car. Fry gets them to the relic of the car, ignoring the fact that the building should have been destroyed over the last 1,000 years and the countless Earth-cleansing fires and wars that happened, and for his trouble, Nibbler gifts Fry with one chance to go into his mom's dreams and talk with her, giving him some amount of closure with the last member of his family. See, this is why I'm torn. The Fry stuff in this episode is excellent, and he has this super mature moment where he recognizes why he thought he hated his family. He did it to protect himself from the pain of never being able to see them again. This is a show where Bender's ass flies through galaxies to be with him again. You don't expect this kind of depth. Like, that's wild. That's something they could do in Futurama, and yet, if you look back at it, it feels earned. And the last scene of the episode is wonderful. The problem is the sound being a Niblonian looking for a company car and destroying planets to do so, which is just so bafflingly dumb. Like, build another one. You had 1,000 years. It makes no sense, and I just feel like there could have been an easier answer. Have it be a sports team chant that his mom would always hum, that an alien rays got broadcast to their planet and couldn't remember what it's from, so they go planet to planet trying to see if anyone remembers it and blows the planet up if they don't. Maybe they think it's a war chant. It's not that much better of an idea, but it's definitely not "Dude, where's my car?" in the year of our Lord 2013. I don't know. Everything up to that last bit of the episode was fantastic, and the writing was still super sharp. This was Fry making peace with his family and getting that last bit of closure. This is the last of Fry's past we'd experience in this run, and it's beautiful. Game of Tones is a cheese serving 9 out of 10. The crew can't trust one another, so the professor hires Dan McMaster's life coach to get them shipshape. And when they're on the ship, he even picks up a space hobo, who then proceeds to eat him and run off into the vents to hunt everyone one by one. You know the episode. What do you think the Futurama twist would be? Of course, Dan McMasters is in on the alien scheme the entire time, and of course, Fry and Bender accidentally off him because they don't believe him that it was all a setup. That's just what Futurama would do. But the episode is really kind of amazing because of that. This is our last crew episode before the end. This is when they all have to fight a common enemy and work together. This is just them on the ship one last time. They're fighting for their lives, but you know it's just one last space adventure. More importantly, one last Fry and Bender adventure. They've been friends since the pilot. Fry talked Bender down from the ledge because he was his best friend, his only friend in the future. And now, sure, they can't trust each other, but this is after years of adventures. This is after years of different things they've seen together. And it's amazing. Even if it ends with them not able to trust each other, it works because they're still going to be friends in the end. I don't know. The episode itself isn't all that complex. The jokes are super solid, and if you look at it in the context of the series, I think having just one last dumb adventure episode right here before our last 2 episodes is perfect. It's just perfect. And if you really wanted to say it's something, you could say it's Dave Herman's last send-off episode. Scruffy has a son in this episode. Dan McMasters is an icon. Like, he gets a proper goodbye. And it's just, I'm sorry. Season 10 of Futurama has been an incredible journey, and I was smiling the entire time I was watching Murder on the Planet Express. I thought it was absolutely brilliant, and it just felt right. You can tell that they mapped this season as a best of greatest hits of Futurama. Murder on the Planet Express is a familiar and fun 9 out of 10. Bender really wants to win a tap dance contest and win week after week while fighting his maniacal tiny girl rival Tanya, played by Tara Strong. Week after week, they clash with all the other dancers to be crowned the tap champ of this tiny dance hall. Oh, what a glorious clash it will be! And Bender ends up saving her life, and he's got a young rival for life. Woohoo! It's all very entertaining and fine. But the main focus of the episode is actually Zoidberg. Zoidberg's got a hot date and goes to get some flowers with the last of his money from a flower girl named Marianne, played by Amelia, the Mother of Dragons, Clark. Wild final guest star, I gotta admit. And she's just so earnest in the episode. She's really genuinely trying, and man, oh man, it's good. Like, I don't know. She has a brilliant voice acting career if she ever decides to go that way. Her voice is fantastic, and she is delivering top notch. Truly an underappreciated legend. Zoidberg's date falls apart and she can't stand his putrid odor, so he goes back to the flower girl to return his flowers and finds out that the flower girl can't smell and starts to romance her. Marianne seems to genuinely care about Zoidberg, and Zoidberg genuinely cares about her. But when he finds out that he could give her an operation that could return her sense of smell, he makes peace with the fact that she won't want to be with him afterwards. So, Zoidberg does the operation to give her sense of smell back, and he's willing to make that sacrifice and give up his happiness just so the woman he loves can have the one thing she wants most in the world. And when he gives her flowers to smell for her very first smell, she yaks. But she can't get enough of smelling Zoidberg. She never knew what things smelled good or bad, but she knew that she loves Zoidberg, so she loves his smell. She gets a job as a garbage man, and the two ride off in her truck together. Zoidberg gets a woman who loves him and he loves back with no strings attached. She sees who he is underneath his shell. Zoidberg gets his happy ending. He's still the joke character, but if this is the last we see of Zoidberg proper, he gets a happy ending. Stench and Stenchability is a fresh, never frozen 9 out of 10. And here we are, yet another series finale. This is the third series finale, so they have to be pretty good at it, right? Look, most shows wish they had a finale as good as this one. If this is how your show goes out, you can hold your head up with pride knowing you did a great job. The episode opens with Fry and Leela delivering to the moon where they did their first delivery together. They spend time at the park, and after Leela gets sucked out into the vacuum of space and somehow manages to survive in her stuffed animal with a balloon animal of herself, Fry is determined to propose to her because he doesn't want to go another second without being married to her. The professor made a new time machine that every time you hit the button, time goes back 10 seconds. Fry takes the device and uses it to get as many diamonds as he can to make a giant engagement ring for Leela, and even uses it to take out the clam at Elzar so it doesn't clamp on her hand when he proposes. He tells her to think over her decision, and if she shows up at the Vampire State Building at 6:30, he'll know she wants to marry him too. He goes to the top of the building, and as he keeps checking his watch, he sees that it's 7:02 and jumps off the balcony, not wanting to live in a future without Leela. However, it turns out his watch was fast and it was only 6:25, so he's falling towards Leela, ready to make a fresh Pollock on the sidewalk. He pulls out the time button and keeps going back 10 seconds on a loop, falling endlessly as the gang try and save him with the help of the time dome that keeps them unfazed by the button's effects. They finally manage to run out and have Bender make an airbag to save Fry, but when he bounces, he lands on the time button and time freezes completely, trapping Fry and Leela unfrozen in time. The two begin to walk the world knowing they're stuck in the pocket between seconds. They get married and grow old doing all the things they wanted to do. They spend every single day of their lives together and slowly begin hobbling up the Vampire State Building to enjoy a final toast when the professor appears. He was able to burrow through time and find the two. He fixes the time button, but he warns, if he resets time, it resets everything and they'll have to do it all again. It'll go back to before he had the concept of the button. Fry and Leela press their heads together, their lives lived, and agree as the episode ends and flashes white to signify where it repeats directly into the pilot. I remember watching the live broadcast with my friends in college, and to see that transition so seamlessly to the pilot, I gotta tell ya, there wasn't a dry eye in that lounge. It was masterful, and this is a masterful episode. You could say it's ambiguous, and then it just goes back a few days. You could say it goes back to the pilot. Who cares? This is how you wrap a series that transcends the idea of time and space. That has survived Fox, direct-to-DVD movies, and now Comedy Central. Futurama's story was definitively concluded here in a way that everyone could walk off with their heads held high. This is easily one of the best episodes of any show ever. This was, from any perspective you view it at, a perfect episode of Futurama that encapsulated everything you needed it to be satisfying. Meanwhile, is a Frozen in Time 1,000 out of 10. And yeah, that was Futurama. A series that began before the turn of the millennia would conclude in one of the best ways imaginable after 2 cancellations and years of dedicated love from its longtime fans. This last season was a celebration of all the characters you'd come to know and love, and honestly, I can't think of a show that has this many seasons and has a season this unequivocally perfect to wrap it up. It's a season largely without flaws and showed that the creators loved what they were working on. They loved the characters they'd brought to life. They were passionate and wanted to make this something truly spectacular. A final testament to those brave workers at Planet Express. So if they were to come back from this, from a perfect season in some way, they'd have to have a pretty incredible reason to do it. But alas, that's a story for another video. But that's season 10. Anything you think I was right on, wrong on? What was your favorite episode? Least favorite? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked what you saw, consider liking, subscribing, and telling your friends. We're out here. That's going to do it for us here at the Lecture Hall. And if you like what you saw and want to support the channel, consider joining our Patreon or membership programs today. $2 a month and you get early videos, special polls, and your name on this very special list. Ooh. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay strong. Keep fighting. Know you're doing a great job, and I believe in you. Goodbye, everyone, and I'll see you all next time.